Hey guys, my name is Josh from Worldwide Corals. Hopefully we give you a little bit of a different face once in a while. We always do Victor. We throw a little bit of Lou in there, so I guess it's my turn, right? We're here to talk today about our Waterbox 100.3 in our retail store. It's predominantly LPS. We've done this tank in the past and it was like completely different. So this is kind of iteration 2. I think we redid the tank back in either January or February of this year. And when you look at it, you'll see that there's a lot of euphilia, and it's kind of got this like arch looking theme to it. When we redid the tank, it was bare rock. So we put all the corals in at one time, which is not really a luxury that most people have, but it was really cool because it was concept related. So when you look, this whole entire left side of the tank is all torches. I'm a firm believer in color mix. You know, even something that's not as desirable looks good in the mix of a bunch of corals that's amazing, right? And then as you work your way over the top of the tank, you'll see that there's hammer and then there's frog spawns, and we did that because they do better touching one another. If I go and I put that frog spawn over here on the other side, you're gonna find that the torch likes to irritate at least one side of it, or sometimes it'll even kill it. Working your way down this side of the tank, you'll see we end with the frog spawn and hammer, and then there's even a little acro stuck in there. There's Grandis pallies, there's a Lobo on the back side. So again, it's all purpose built. We kind of wanted everything in this tank to kind of have that motion that rocks back and forth with the movement of the MP40. Okay, so this MP40 here is set on a short pulse, and we set it to the intensity that we wanted. That's not gonna really thrash the euphilia, right? And it also gives these mushrooms down here on the bottom right-hand side the ability to hold on to the rock, so it's subtle. And then we set the resonant frequency in the tank to not quite rock, so you don't see the water level doing this. And I'll explain a little bit more about that in a second. But what we wanted is we wanted the coral to kind of roll back and forth with the motion of the water. So in a nutshell, it's very minimal flow. The reason why we have the pulse the way that we do is if you set the tank to have a wave, what you're gonna see is right in the bottom, wherever your detritus collects, it's gonna actually just move left and right instead of ending up into the water column, which, I mean, you've heard me specifically talk about how flow is important, and that's what I mean, is the flow has to be strong enough for the corals to make their gas exchanges and wash themselves of any debris, but it also needs to be subtle enough for the type of coral that it is. So the good balance in this tank, if you watch the euphilia, you can actually see they get hit pretty good, but it's only in that one section of the tank, so they're enjoying it. When it comes to maintenance in this tank, there's not a ton. So we clean the glass every day, just like every other tank here. We make sure that there's no obvious signs of harm to the coral, which there's one right here. This euphilia is getting tagged by the Nephthia leather. But aside from that, that's the day-to-day. We test the water once a week. We gravel vac the bottom when it gets really nasty and gross. And then it gets this regular weekly water change. But aside from that, there's not a lot of maintenance here. Let's talk about the fish actually really quick. If you look, there's no like overly utilitarian fish in here. There's a damsel, there's a clownfish, a lonely clownfish, and then I know for a fact that there's a circus goby in here, and he lives upside down underneath this cap. But the point that I'm trying to make here is there's no tangs. So funny enough, there's no algae, right? So the compromise was throw a whole bunch of blue like hermit crabs in there. There's no grazing space in this tank to keep a tang happy. It's only 3 feet long, and it does well just the way that it is. We keep the nitrate and the phosphate relatively low, which helps to keep any kind of filamentous algae down. But I mean, coralline is actually thriving over where there would be filamentous algae. So it's kind of it's when we talk about a balanced system, speaking about Vic's Pico, that's balanced. There's no critters in there that are taking care of the algae. It's not overfed, it's not overlit, so you're not growing a bunch of algae, and this is the same exact type of environment. The rock is all Carib Sea arches, and there's probably only, at best, 9 or 10 pieces of rock in this entire tank. But it's got this really cool swoop and arch type feel to it. In the middle, there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 different types of plating monopora cap, which was cool because the bottom one is our grafted sunfire cap. The next one above it is a red and purple graft. The one to the left of that is a OG grafted cap. Above that is our Jawbreaker grafted cap. And then above that is Jason's Cold Fusion grafted cap. So every single one of those is grafted. So grafting is described as a infection. So it's basically an infection of a fluorescent protein. How they get that infection, we really don't know. And here we take advantage of it. So if we find it, we try to make sure that we keep the graft going because grafted corals are cool, right? What makes this tank, the Ecotech tank is what we call it, is it's operating with all Ecotech devices. So these are Ecotech XR15 Gen 5s. I want to say they're pros. Yeah, these are XR15 Gen 5 pros. On the left-hand side, we have a single Vortec MP40, which originally when we started this tank, it was 2 MP10s. And it worked as long as we hung the power head well, but the magnet doesn't couple strong enough on this thickness of glass. So we ended up switching it up for an MP40. In the sump, we have a S2 Vectra for return flow. And this is a Waterbox 100.3. So it's essentially 36 inches long. It's 24 and 21, I believe. So it's kind of weird to skate, but it's nice because you've got 24 inches from front to back. It has a lot of depth. So just keeping things organic, I wanted to double check our parameters. So it looks like our nitrates are just under 5. Our phosphates are nothing. Our magnesium came out at 1410. Our calcium came in at 470. Our elk, funny enough, came in at 11.8. So I'm gonna have to go back through and look and see why it's so elevated, because we kind of keep that like 9-ish or closer to 10 sometimes alkalinity. But what's nice about this tank is the farm group doesn't actually help to maintain this. This is all the guys in the retail. They do a really good job and they take care of this tank. So we'll check back in. We'll find out why the alkalinity is so high. And our salinity is 1.026. So, you know, when we talk about alkalinity, I don't think that it's a bad thing for it to be there. Otherwise, we would be able to see these corals aren't happy. As a matter of fact, I think the growth is really good. We've got these merletti that are growing really exceptional in the middle, which is cool because it's right in the middle of Euphilia. These cloves are almost bridging this gap because the rock structure is like a V. It dips back in like this, and this is a complete open valley. So now where the cap is reaching out across, the cloves are bridging the gap. We used 2 little fishes reborn in the bottom of this tank, similar to what both I have in my tank and what Victor has in his Pico. We like this media because if you take a gravel vacuum and you stick it down into the middle of it, you can actually watch. It'll draw detritus like this underneath it and up and out. Everything that breaks down into that really fine like mush, that real thick sludge that comes out of your sand bed when you move it, that's the same thing, but it's finer. So it had to be small enough to make it in between those particles of sand. Here, the big stuff makes it underneath, and then you just quick gravel back it out. In a nutshell, I feel like we can say this is a true mixed reef. We don't have a lot of stonies in here, but there are a few. We don't have a lot of softies in here, but there's a few. We don't have an overwhelming amount of LPS, unless you're just counting torches, but it looks proportionate. And I think the entire purpose of this tank is to showcase that design. We'll share the lighting profile on our webpage. I believe it's actually already there. Same as our other tanks, we run that 3 to 5 hour photo period in the morning that is white like it is right now, right before we open, and then it wanes off into a blue all day long. So if you ever get a chance to stop by our Orlando location, make sure you take a look at this tank. I think it looks stunning. You're gonna start seeing a little bit more around the shop. And I'm telling you that because we're not gonna just do tank descriptions. That's Victor's thing. I love it, it's amazing for the channel, you guys like it, but I think we wanna get into a little bit more informational stuff. Maybe we play around with different things. Maybe we test how things work in different environments. Maybe we put out a new piece of equipment on one of our tanks. I don't know. The reason why I'm bringing this up is I'd like for you guys to comment in the section below, because at the end of the day, we're trying to put out stuff that you guys want to see. And we have an unlimited supply of content here in the shop, and I think it's foolish of us to not take advantage of that. So you want to see more corals, you want to see testing, you want to see equipment, let us know, and we'd like to do that for you. And don't forget, like and subscribe, hit the bell in the bottom corner, and make sure you check in on our next video. Don't forget to get your tickets. Reefapalooza in Texas is coming October 7th and 8th. Ryan from Bulk Reef Supply and myself will be speaking at 12:30 both Saturday and Sunday. Make sure you come check it out. It's my first time ever. I'm kind of nervous and kind of excited about it at the same time. So get your tickets, get your hotel rooms, and see you there.